Hello, this is Jared from LearnToDroid.com. Welcome to today's tutorial on creating a pie chart inside an Android app using the MPAndroidChart library. It's an open source, free to use library. It's licensed under the Apache license version 2.0, highlighted in the GitHub documentation. So you can check that out and review the details of the license in more detail, but basically it's free to use. To get an idea of what sort of charts you can create an MP-Android project, if you check out the GitHub page, it goes through some of the examples there. You can see things such as line charts, bar charts, obviously the pie charts. It's also like a donut chart there as well. Scatter charts, candle charts, bubble charts, radar charts, and so on and so forth. So what we'll do for this video is we'll go through creating a pie chart visualization using MPAndroidChart. So we'll get started now. So I'll jump into Android Studio and I'll create a new project. I'll use an empty activity. I'll give the project a name, PieChart, Android. I'll jump into project mode in Android Studio. So now that the Android project's been created, we'll pull in the dependencies for MPAndroid project using Gradle. So I'll jump back into the GitHub project. I'll go into the Gradle setup section and I will get this Jetpack URL and put it in the repositories inside the root level build.gradle file in our project. So in the repository section, I'll add the Maven URL to Jetpack. Then I'll sync the project. In addition to that, I'll grab the implementation dependency and copy that into the app level build.gradle file. Now I'll sync the project and those dependencies will be downloaded using Gradle. So next what we'll do is we'll jump into the activity layout resource file and add a new XML element for the pie chart. So I'll open the activity layout resource file now. And instead of this text view, I will change this to be a pie chart. I'll get it to take up the full screen by using match parent for the width and the height. And I'll remove that text attribute. We'll also need to add an ID to the pie chart so we can reference it in the main activity class. So now we've got the pie chart added to the activity layout resource file. Next, we'll make some changes in the main activity class so we can set up the pie chart and load data into it. So I'll jump into the main activity class and we'll create a variable for the pie chart. Then we'll set up that variable in the onCreate method. So next what we'll do is we'll start loading data into the pie chart. So we'll create a new method called load pie chart data. So we need to create an array list of pie entry values. And we'll call this entries and we'll default it to a blank array list. So before we populate this array list with data, the data we'll be using in this app will be like a budgeting app. So we will categorize the total amount of expenses that we have across a number of different categories, such as food and dining, medical, entertainment, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to copy in the code for initializing this array list of entries. So the pie entry has a value and a label associated with it. So the value is for the food and dining entry has a value of 0.2 and it's a floating point value. So it's basically 20% and that's associated with food and dining. And then you can say a 15% value for medical, 10% for entertainment, 25% for electricity and gas, and 30% for housing. So next what we'll do is we'll add a set of colors that we'll be using for these categories in the pie chart. I'm just going to copy some code in now. So we'll have an array list of integers that will make up our colors. And we'll use 2 for each loops to get colors from a list of colors in the color template class provided by MPAndroidChart. So first we'll use some material colors, and then we'll use the Audiplom colors. So you'll see what those colors look like when we run the app later. Next, what we'll do is we'll create the Pi dataset, and that Pi dataset is made up of the entries, and we'll also have a label for that dataset. So basically, MPAndroid chart allows you to have multiple sets of entries, so multiple series of data. We only have one series of data for this pie chart. So I'll copy some code in. So we're creating the dataset using the Pi dataset object, and we're creating a new version of that Pi dataset and including the entries and a label for these entries, and they all relate to expense categories. And for that dataset we're going to set the colors to use from the colors that we've defined above. We want to use those for this dataset. So next we'll use this dataset to create a Pi data object, and we'll populate certain attributes on that Pi data object, and that's how we'll provide the data to the PieChart object. So I'll copy some code in. So we're using the constructor of the Pi data class and passing in the dataset to create the Pi data object. And for that Pi data object, we're going to set the draw values to true. So we want to draw the values of the different percentages on the pie chart. And we want to present the floating variables here as percentages when we show it on the screen. So we'll use the percentage formatter and pass the pie chart to that percentage formatter object. Next, we'll invoke the setValueTextSize method on the Pi data object and pass a value of 12. And finally, we will set the text color of those percentages that will show on the screen to be the color black. So now that we've created this Pi data object, we need to then provide that to the pie chart. So to do that, there's 2 steps involved. So first, what we need to do is call the setData method on the pie chart object and pass the Pi data. Next, we need to invoke the invalidate method to let the pie chart know that the data has been updated and needs to refresh that on the screen. So before we can run this in the emulator, there's a few more formatting values we need to set on the pie chart. So I'll create a new method called setUpChart, which we'll invoke before we call the loadPieChartData method. I'll call it setUpPieChart. And we'll start by setting some attributes on the pie chart object. So first, what we need to do is we need to enable a draw hole. So basically what that means is that we'll show like a donut rather than a pie. So in the middle of the donut, we'll show a description of what the chart is all about. So we'll call the setDrawHoleEnabled method and pass the value true. Next, what we want to do is we want to tell the pie chart that we'll be using percentage values. So to do that, we'll call the setUsePercentageValues method and pass the value of true. Next, we'll set the text size and the text color of the labels that we'll be showing on the screen. So those labels are things like food and dining, medical, entertainment, electricity and gas and housing. So we want to set the text size and the text color for those labels. So we'll use the same text size that we've used for the values. So we'll use 12, and we'll use the same color as well for the text. And that color is black. Okay, so next what we'll do is we'll set the text that will be shown in the center of the pie chart using the setCenterText method. And we'll call the chart spending by category. Next, what we'll do is we'll set the text size of that center text, and we'll make it larger than the text for the values and the labels. So we'll set it to its text size of 24. And next, what we want to do is disable the description text on the chart. We don't want to show that. So to do that, we need to invoke the getDescription method on the PieChart, and then set enabled and pass the value false. What we'll do next is we'll add a legend. So a legend is basically going to be displayed in the top right hand corner, and it will give us the details of all the different labels that are included in our PieChart visualization. So we'll start by getting the legend by calling PieChart.getLegend. Next, I'll copy in a bit of code that describes the alignment and orientation of the legend. So we want to set the vertical alignment of the legend to be at the top, and the horizontal alignment to be on the right, so it's on the top right hand side of the screen. And the orientation of the labels that will be shown will be going in a vertical order rather than horizontal, so they'll go from top to bottom. Okay, and we'll use the setDrawInside method and pass the value of false, and then we'll call the setEnabled method for the legend, set that to true. And we'll invoke the setup PieChart method before we invoke the load PieChart data method. So let's try this out in the emulator. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the PieChart showing as a donut. So we've got the text in the middle that describes the PieChart. It's describing it as spending by category. And then we've got the 5 different segments there with percentage values and labels for each of those values. In the top right-hand corner, you can see each of the different categories, and it's got the color coding next to those categories and a label of expense category for each of those categories. So you can highlight segments of this PieChart, and you can also rotate the PieChart as well. One final thing that I'll add is some animation effects to this. So let me implement that now. So now to implement animation, we want to show this animation after we've loaded the PieChart data. So I'll go to the bottom of the load PieChart data method, and I'll add some code around animation. So to implement this animation, what we'll need to do is we'll need to use the PieChart variable and invoke the animateY method. And we need to pass in a duration in milliseconds, and for what we'll use 1400 milliseconds. So next we'll add an easing to make the animation look smoother. And the easing option we'll use is ease in out quad. So now I'll try this out in the emulator to see what it looks like. So now you can see that animation that just occurred when the PieChart loaded on the screen. So I've added some code samples in the link in the description. You can access that via my website at learnandroid.com. And that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and if you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe.